the second level, level 2 of our World Cup Teams profile, where I'm just going to show you how to do character profiles. If you haven't seen level 1 of this project, which basically set up the whole thing step by step, all the sprites, and basically flicking through them to hit space to get through them. This is basically the project. What we're going to do in this particular project is, instead of hitting space to go through the projects, what we want to do in level 2 is use the up and down arrows to go through the various teams, and that's very important. Because if you have a lot of characters and you're hitting space a lot, it'll take a while to get back. But let's say you hit up, you go to the next level, to the next team. If you go down, you go to the previous team. I also want to stop it at the final team from moving on. So we're just going to have a look at the code inside here. We still have our three sprites. Our stage is still blank, and the three sprites here basically have to work together. Like, that's the biggest challenge of this, really, in a way. There's not a huge amount to the code, really, except for the idea that if we are going to be having some sort of counting system to move to screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, screen 4, we're going to have a new variable which I'm going to call team number. England are going to be team number 1, and the next team will be team number 2, number 3, and number 4. And when we start the game, or start this Scratch project, we're going to want to change all of these to their first costume. Okay, so when the green flag, they're all going to be the costume, and also that team number is going to be set to 1, so England will always be the first, no matter where we are on this project. If I press the green flag like this, it'll always go back to England, because that's team number 1. Now, the next thing I suppose that we need to know is how do we move from number to number. So we're going to be using, or from team to team, so we're going to have the up arrow and the down arrow, and when the up arrow key is pressed, what I'm doing in order to prevent anything to moving back past the last team is, if the team number variable is less than 4, because 4 is our biggest team, then what we're going to do is we're going to move that team number up 1, and we broadcast next team. And that's basically what broadcast is basically saying, I'm putting out a message out to the other sprites out there, and once they receive it, they have to do something, and all of them have received that. When I receive the next team, it moves to the next costume. It's fairly straightforward. When I receive the next team, I go to the next costume. When I receive the next team, I go to the next costume. So it's very simple. It's when you're going backwards, it's a little bit more difficult. Now, it's just before I do that, when we're going forwards, this is team 1. When I move up, team 2, team 3, team 4. I'm going to hit the up arrow again on my keyboard. You won't be able to see this, but it's not allowing, as you'll see that the flag up there flashing. It can't go by. So that's where we have a problem. I'll hit the green flag to bring us back to England. Now, when I receive what I want to do next is, when you hit the down arrow, we want the team number to be higher than 1, so if it's a 4, a 3, or 2, we can go backwards, and we're going to change the variable team number by -1. So if it's at 4, it'll bring it down to team number 3. If it's 3, it'll go to team number 2. If it's 2, it'll go down to team number 1. If it's 1, it won't work at all. But we're going to broadcast something called previous team. Now, this is a little bit more difficult. Now, there's lots of different ways you can make this simpler, but just for the purpose of this, we're going to use a lot of ifs and thens and a nested one. So when I receive the previous team, if the team is 1, switch the costume to England. If it's 2, switch the costume to Croatia. Else, if it's 3, go to France, and if it's 4, go to Belgium. And it's the same with the other things there. If it's 1, the flag of England. And then with the names of the teams, the same thing there as well. It just switches to the correct costume. So we'll just have a look at that in practice. We're moving up, up, down, down. I'm trying to move down again, and nothing happening. And you can see the team number there moving up through the ranks. So again, very, very simple. I would suggest, if you wanted to make this a little bit easier, you would name your costume something better. I'd suggest giving all 3 of these sprites their costumes there. So it's something like, rather than England, Croatia, France, and Belgium, might kind of go with I don't know, something like T1, T2, T3, T4, so that you can create your variable a little easier, so your code can be a bit a little bit better. But effectively, that doesn't really matter. Other stuff you can do, really, for just the fun of it, is to add sounds like effects for every time you press the buttons, the keys on the keyboard. But again, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'll leave that to you. If you do remix this this Scratch project, please let me know, because it'd be lovely to see what you've done with it. I'd love to see different ways of showing profiles, whether it's character profiles from novels, stories, or whatever, or characters from history or people like that. I'd love to know. The link to this Scratch project will be in the description below, and obviously all the credits for any images I used as well. So listen, I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll catch you again for another video again soon. Thank you.